This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to our daily roundup. We have a heavy slate of stories today, ranging from tragic domestic cases to critical global infrastructure. Let's get right into the details of these developing reports.
A Washington man allegedly murdered his girlfriend after horrific abuse.
South Carolina authorities uncover a brutal child labor trafficking ring.
A Michigan man shot his girlfriend, then gave children candy.
Kendra Duggar faces charges following her husband Joseph's recent arrest.
Jurors in the Corey Richins trial reveal their emotional struggle.
A New Jersey man receives life for a 2015 murder.
An eviction notice allegedly sparked a dangerous Kentucky apartment fire.
A North Carolina man pleaded guilty to killing his uncle.
A Nebraska man lured and killed his stepfather at Walmart.
Global energy markets tremble as the Strait of Hormuz closes.
First, a tragic Washington case. In Skagit County, Washington, 42-year-old Juan Delgado is facing second-degree murder charges for the death of his girlfriend, Krista Hunt. Krista was reported missing in early February, but her mother, Pamela, says she hadn't been seen since late January. The details emerging from the investigation are truly stomach-turning. Pamela Hunt shared that Delgado was incredibly abusive, once even setting a timer to hit Krista every 15 minutes. When police finally searched Delgado's truck, they found clumps of Krista's hair and blood, leading to the grim discovery of her body in the Skagit River weeks later.
The autopsy revealed the sheer brutality of the attack, noting a broken neck, jaw, and ribs. Delgado tried to claim she was hit by a car, but the evidence in his vehicle told a different story. Interestingly, just 2 days after she was reported missing, Delgado actually shot himself at a local bar but survived. He is currently being held on $1 million bail. Krista's brother spoke out about the immense loss, noting that Delgado stole 60 years of a relationship from their family. It is a devastating end for a woman who was clearly living in fear. Next, a South Carolina investigation.
In South Carolina, a woman named Margaret Roberson has been denied bond in a case that prosecutors are calling a horrific human trafficking operation. Roberson is described as the matriarch of a household where 5 minors were allegedly forced to clean medical clinics. If they didn't comply, they were subjected to what was called the upper room treatment, which involved being taken to a bathroom and essentially waterboarded. This investigation was sparked by the tragic death of an 11-year-old girl named Akiri Bell, who was staying at the home and suffered multiple injuries before she passed away in June.
The details are even more disturbing, because there is reportedly video evidence of this abuse. Prosecutors claim Roberson would sit in her bedroom and watch these videos while the children were being mistreated. One victim even testified that Roberson thought the abuse was funny, while her defense attorney argues she wasn't aware of the extent of the violence. The state is painting a picture of a coordinated conspiracy involving 6 adults. The local police chief is urging the community to report any signs of such exploitation, as this case has revealed a level of cruelty that is hard to fathom.
Now to a Michigan shooting. A shocking incident occurred in Warren, Michigan, where 39-year-old Zachary Fuqua is accused of killing his girlfriend, Erica Sanders. According to authorities, Fuqua shot Sanders in the back of the head while 3 of her children were present in the home. What makes this even more chilling is his behavior immediately following the shooting. Prosecutors say that as he was leaving the house, he handed candy to the children and said, "Here y'all babies go." It shows a staggering lack of remorse or even basic human empathy to commit such a violent act and then casually interact with the victim's children.
Fuqua had apparently been posting ominous messages on social media days before the attack, including one that said he was going out with a bang. Police were able to apprehend him nearby shortly after they found Sanders' body. He is now being held without bond on second-degree murder charges. The community is left reeling from the cold-blooded nature of the crime, especially given that the children had to witness the death of their mother. He is scheduled to return to court on April 1st, where more details about the motive behind this senseless act of domestic violence may finally be revealed. Moving to the Duggar family.
The Duggar family is back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Kendra Duggar, the wife of Joseph Duggar, was arrested on Friday for misdemeanor charges of endangering the welfare of a child and false imprisonment. This arrest came just 1 day after her husband, Joseph, was taken into custody in Arkansas. Joseph is facing very serious allegations of lewd and lascivious behavior involving a child under the age of 12. These charges stem from an incident reported by a 14-year-old girl who claims Joseph molested her multiple times during a family trip to Florida back when she was only 9 years old.
This latest scandal follows the high-profile conviction of Joseph's older brother, Josh Duggar, who is currently serving time for child sexual abuse material. The family, once famous for their reality show 19 Kids and Counting, has seen their public image completely dismantled by these recurring allegations of abuse. While Kendra was released shortly after her booking, the legal pressure on the couple is mounting. Other family members like Jill Duggar Dillard have released statements strongly condemning the alleged actions and supporting the rule of law. It remains to be seen how these new charges will impact the remaining members of the family.
Next, the Richens trial aftermath. In a fascinating look behind the scenes of a high-profile trial, jurors from the Corey Richens case are speaking out. Corey was convicted of murdering her husband, Eric, by spiking his cocktail with a lethal dose of fentanyl. Interestingly, the jury foreperson Laura mentioned that the panel actually wanted to find her innocent. They were hoping for an acquittal because the idea of a family being torn apart like this was heartbreaking. However, once they started looking at the evidence, specifically the children's book, Corey wrote about grief shortly after Eric's death. They felt like they were hit by a truck. The evidence was simply too overwhelming.
Another juror, Christie, noted that Corey appeared small and frail in court, making it hard to read her. But the testimony from Corey's paramour and the technical evidence regarding the fentanyl purchase made the deliberation very short. It only took the jury 3 hours to reach a guilty verdict. They had to push past the fluff and drama of the courtroom to focus on the cold facts. Even though they felt a sense of sadness for the children who lost both parents, they couldn't ignore the reality of Corey's actions. It's a rare glimpse into the emotional weight jurors carry during such intense murder trials. Now to a sentencing update.
In New Jersey, 53-year-old Andre Higgs has been sentenced to life in prison for the 2015 murder of his ex-girlfriend Latrina May. This case has a long and complicated legal history. Higgs actually killed May while she was in the process of flagging down a police officer for help. As the officer approached, Higgs fired multiple shots at her. The officer returned fire, hitting Higgs in the legs, but the defendant managed to barricade himself inside May's home, where her 4-year-old daughter was sleeping. He was eventually caught, but his original 2017 conviction was overturned by the state Supreme Court due to procedural issues regarding evidence.
Despite getting a second trial, the outcome remained the same. A new jury found him guilty of first-degree murder and several weapons charges. The judge handed down a 75-year sentence for the murder alone, ensuring Higgs will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. Prosecutors praised the witnesses who came forward a second time to testify, noting their bravery was essential in securing justice for Latrina May. She was a beloved teacher, and her death was a tragic example of domestic violence reaching a boiling point. This final sentencing brings a long-awaited sense of closure to her family and the local community.
Next, a Kentucky arson case. A 68-year-old woman in Louisville, Kentucky is facing serious charges after allegedly setting her apartment building on fire. Elizabeth Radmacher was reportedly in the process of being evicted when she intentionally started a fire in her bedroom at 3 a.m. as the building burned, and neighbors scrambled to escape. Witnesses claim they heard Radmacher shouting that she was going to kill everybody. The fire caused about $100,000 in damage and displaced several residents. One person had to be hospitalized, and a family with a young child living directly above her was put at extreme risk during the early morning inferno.
It took 29 firefighters nearly 20 minutes to get the blaze under control. Radmacher told police that someone else made her set the fire, but she is currently charged with arson, wanton endangerment, and criminal mischief. Neighbors expressed their shock and sympathy for those affected, especially the family with the small child who could have been killed. While most residents were able to return to their homes, the smoke and fire damage left 2 people completely displaced. It's a terrifying reminder of how a personal crisis like an eviction can spiral into a life-threatening situation for an entire community when someone lashes out. Shifting to North Carolina news.
Stephen Eric Buchanan has pleaded guilty to the second-degree murder of his 72-year-old uncle, Charles Knight. The details of this case are particularly gruesome. After killing his uncle in the summer of 2024, Buchanan attempted to burn the remains in a backyard pit and partially bury what was left. The crime came to light when Buchanan's own brother grew suspicious. He hadn't seen their uncle in days and noticed Stephen was driving the uncle's car and selling his belongings at yard sales. When a neighbor reported the smell of a dead animal and a fire that had been burning for 3 days, the brother investigated the pit.
The brother found human remains in the garden and immediately called the police. Buchanan fled to South Carolina, but was eventually extradited back to North Carolina to face justice. He has now been sentenced to between 51 and 63 years in prison. While the exact motive for the murder remains unclear, the evidence of his attempts to conceal the death and profit from his uncle's disappearance was overwhelming. The State Bureau of Investigation worked alongside local police to piece together the timeline of this betrayal. It is a grim conclusion to a case that has deeply shaken the small town of Cleveland, North Carolina.
Now to a Nebraska murder. In Columbus, Nebraska, 26-year-old Manuel Mesa Cabrera has pleaded guilty to second-degree murder after a calculated attack on his stepfather. Mesa Cabrera lured 42-year-old Angel Mirabal Hernandez to a Walmart parking lot under the guise of needing help finding a vehicle part. Once they were parked, Mesa Cabrera pulled out a 9mm handgun and shot Hernandez in the chest and head. The defendant had legally purchased the firearm just 2 weeks prior to the shooting. After the attack, he actually turned himself into the police, stating that he knew he was going to be arrested anyway. It was a cold and premeditated act.
The investigation revealed that Mesa Cabrera had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, but was not taking any medication or seeking medical help at the time of the murder. Authorities believe he spent days planning the killing before executing it in the busy retail parking lot. Officers arrived to find Hernandez on the ground, and despite their efforts to provide aid, he was later pronounced dead at a hospital. Mesa Cabrera is now facing a significant prison sentence when he is officially sentenced in April. This case highlights the tragic intersection of untreated mental health issues and access to firearms, resulting in a senseless loss of life. Finally, the Strait of Hormuz.
The Strait of Hormuz is currently the center of a global economic crisis. This narrow waterway, which sits between Iran and Oman, is the transit point for about a fifth of the world's oil consumption. Recent conflict has effectively shut down normal shipping through the strait, causing major producers to cut their output because tankers simply cannot load safely. The International Maritime Organization has warned civilian ships to avoid the region entirely due to the clear and present danger posed by missiles, drones, and mines. It is a stark reminder of how a single geographic choke point can hold the entire world's energy supply hostage during times of war.
The geography of the strait makes it nearly impossible to fully secure. While it is 21 miles wide, the actual shipping lanes are only 2 miles wide in each direction. This gives hostile forces a massive advantage, as they can disrupt global trade with relatively low-cost weapons, like explosive boats or AI-surveilled drones. As shipping costs and insurance premiums skyrocket, the impact is being felt by consumers everywhere. Through rising inflation and supply chain disruptions, politicians and admirals are struggling to find a solution. But for now, the watery terrain is dictating the terms of global energy security and market stability.
That concludes our daily briefing. Thank you for joining us for these important updates. Be sure to follow the show for your next daily roundup of the stories people follow most.